It's interesting revisiting past comments Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White made about each other, knowing what we know now. Because it's been clear all along, I guess, in retrospect, that there was mutual love and respect between the pair. Coach White had said that Clark was going to be the player who adapted the best to the WNBA coming out of college. She defended Caitlin Clark from early season WNBA struggles. Meanwhile, Clark, who faced White's team in her first WNBA game, called her a great basketball mind and was effusive in her praise of White's work as a television analyst and, in the pro ranks as a coach. And that's the most important thing when you're coaching a superstar, right? Having their respect. Because Clark herself is a bit of a coach on the floor, the way she plays, the way she likes to play, read and react, and everybody plays off of her. And given the fact that she herself is a basketball genius, if the coach then has the respect where Clark isn't going to, walk all over her or any of those things, and the two can combine in unison, that is when you're really cooking with gas. And it seems crystal clear, CC there, that Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White share that mutual admiration and respect, which is great news for the future prospects of the Indiana Fever. Talking about those past comments, here are some of them. This is what was said about Stephanie White by Caitlin Clark that I just referenced.
But I noticed that the first person that you greeted from the Connecticut team was actually head coach Stephanie White. What was that like to just be able to catch up with her in your pro debut?
Yeah, she's obviously called a lot of my games all throughout college, and I just think she has a really great basketball mind. I think she's done a great job calling college games. It's been great to see her on NBA games. I think what she's done is she's obviously, she's been a trailblazer, honestly. I think she's always been somebody that's been supportive of my game, and it's been fun to talk to her at shoot-arounds throughout my college career, and always been really supportive. And so I think the biggest thing is just it's fun to go against her now for my first time after her calling a lot of my games. Now I get to play against her, so I think that's going to be a lot of fun for the both of us.
So those were those initial comments at the beginning of the season, but you can see Caitlin Clark loves and admires Coach Stephanie White. There's no other way to put it. I mean, great basketball mind, trailblazer. Those are some of the words. The way that she supports me, and Clark has probably felt a lack of support at times with all the noise and discourse around her. That was sort of the antithesis of the way she likely felt at Iowa and in college with that support system. Meanwhile, there's the past comments from Stephanie White.
Who is the most in WNBA ready right now?
To me, I think it's Caitlin Clark. I think it's Caitlin Clark, not just because she can score the basketball really at all three levels, but she got stronger.
Then from the other side of that, like I said, White was on ESPN and said all these positive things about Clark going into the draft and how she thought her game would adapt. They showed the highlights in those packages, so I can't play them for you here. But she said this also as well after Clark struggled a little bit to begin her WNBA career.
When I'm, looking at all these things that people are talking about with Caitlin Clark, it's like, guys, chill out. Like, she's going to be fine. Like, it's 2 games in. Are you kidding me? She's a student of the game. She got better every year. You're not going to just absorb all of the new information that's coming at you in 2 games, in 2 weeks. It takes time. And she will. I have no doubt about it. She's a student of the game. She continues to get better. And these are also points that coaches then address. Hey, let's continue to work on this. But it's really hard to work on some of those things in season. So this might be an off-season thing, right? Let's continue to play to our strengths. Let's find different ways to get the ball to our players. And then when we get time in the offseason, then we'll work on that next step or that next level.
She's almost coaching her right there, right? I mean, that's almost coaching to a certain degree. And Stephanie White is standing up for Caitlin Clark more than Christy Sides did, at least at the beginning of the season. It was more emphatic in the way she said it, because there is a difference between just the words that are said and the way that the words are said. And you heard her there that, she's emphasizing what she's saying. So those are not just empty calories, empty words. Those are words with meaning, that she feels what she's saying there. And again, Caitlin Clark calls Stephanie White great basketball mind, trailblazer. Stephanie White calls Caitlin Clark student of the game, improves every year. It couldn't be any more crystal clear how much respect, love, and admiration these two had for one another. It's just funny we're only really seeing this stuff resurface now, and it wasn't setting off alarm bells in the heads before. I guess there was no reason to necessarily think this was going to transpire the way that it looks like it's going to, of course. And Clark plays the Connecticut Sun first game of the season. Then she plays them again by the fourth game of the season, I believe it was. They wind up playing each other in the playoffs. That's how the season ended. And from the reporting about Stephanie White's separation from the Connecticut Sun, it was all the Connecticut Sun basically said, this was a professional but also a personal thing for Stephanie White. With the implication there, of course, being that White is a native of Indiana. She can be closer to her family. We know she was dealing with something personal for a minute there as well. That in the explanation for parting ways, because generally you might see some bitterness or something along those lines when someone is I don't know how it worked out behind the scenes between those two parties, but there doesn't seem to be animosity there. Christy Sides didn't seem thrilled by being dismissed by the Fever, nor should she be. And she said, leave it better than you found it, peace. Basically, that was her sign off. But you would understand if Christy Sides felt a certain way about the way things ended for her with the Indiana Fever. But one thing that is abundantly and easily, to see, it's easy to see, is that admiration that Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White have had for one another. And we'd have to assume will continue to have for one another if they, work out the way it seems all this stuff is going to work out, because the tea leaves were screaming that White was going to become the Fever's coach for a minute. And now if you go back and unearth all the breadcrumbs, it seems there may have been more evidence of this, or at least reason to suspect it could have been the desires of the involved parties. More reasons for that than we would have known before.